this entire week, which is kind of crazy. So,
Alright. Laten we deze even modelleren. Wacht, vel.
Hi.
Erg woord? Oh shit.
Hello everyone. If you are completely new to Unreal Engine 5, then this tutorial was made for you. In this tutorial, you will go from knowing nothing about Unreal Engine 5 to creating this beautiful world you see right here.
Crazy.
Now, I know this might look intimidating, but do not worry. Every step in this process, from sculpting the landscape to creating the castle, will be shown in detail. This video is pretty long, but that's because Unreal Engine 5 is a big program, and we have a lot to cover. To help navigate this video, I divided it up into individual chapters. You can find links to all the chapters in the description below. In this tutorial, you will learn how to install Unreal Engine 5 and create a project, how to navigate and move objects in your 3D world, create materials and import 3D models, go over Unreal's amazing new dynamic lighting system called Lumen, sculpt landscapes and paint foliage, download free Nanite objects from the Megascans library, and finally we will briefly go over how to program a game using blueprints, and at the end, create the fantasy environment you see right here. I know learning Unreal Engine 5 can be tough at first, which is why each chapter in this video can be treated as its own self-contained lesson. So if you're ever stuck on something, you can always go back in the video and re-watch that chapter. Also, all the assets I use in this video are completely free,
Let's go.
so you can follow along with me. Now, with all that being said, let's jump into UE5. To begin, before we can use Unreal Engine 5, of course we have to download Unreal Engine 5. To do so, you need the Epic Games Launcher. You can get it from their website, and come all the way down here to the Unreal Engine tab. Now, with the tabs up here, you want to click on Library, and if you don't see Unreal Engine 5, then you don't have it downloaded. To download it, you want to click on the plus icon next to Engine Versions, and make sure you have 5 selected, and then click on Install. Now, it's going to ask for an install location. You can just leave it at the default place, but if you do want to bring it somewhere else, then you can click on Browse and select a new location. But I'm just going to leave it default and click Install. Once Unreal Engine 5 is done downloading, all you have to do to open up is to click Launch, or you could click Launch up here, but Unreal Engine 5 isn't set as the default engine. You can set it as the default engine by clicking on the drop down and selecting Unreal Engine 5. Alternatively, if you don't want to go through the Epic Games Launcher, you can click on the drop down right here and create a shortcut on your desktop. Now that that shortcut has been created, let's open up Unreal Engine 5 by just double clicking on the application. The Unreal Project browser will pop up when you open up Unreal Engine. Essentially, this is where we open up recent projects, or we create a project completely from scratch, which is what we're going to be doing. Now, you can create your project from a template, which essentially is a pre-made project to help point you in the right direction with a lot of stuff already done for you. For example, if you're in the car industry and you want to render out a car, then possibly going into the automotive tab and selecting Photo Studio will be a good template from where you will start. But for our cases, I want to start from complete scratch. So I'm going to come to games and make sure I select blank. Now down here is the project location where our project is going to be saved. I just want to save this on the desktop. If you do want to save it somewhere else, then you click on the file icon right here and browse to a different folder. Now right here is the project name. So let's call this one First Project. And up here are some project settings. Now I'm going to leave it at Blueprint since we're not going to be going over C++ coding in this video. And down here, I want to make sure starter content is enabled. Starter content will give us some nice assets that we can play with to help us learn Unreal Engine 5. Below that is ray tracing. We're not going to go over ray tracing just yet. And of course, to create this project, let's click on Create. So this is what you should see when opening up Unreal Engine for the first time. Don't worry, we're going to go over what all these different windows and buttons do in just a second. But before that, I want to go over how Unreal Engine stores projects. So let's exit out of this project, and we can see that a brand new folder was created on our desktop. Remember, I selected my desktop as the place to save our project. Essentially, this folder contains all the data that makes up our project. So whenever we make a change in our project or we create something in the project, it's going to be stored right here. Now to open up a project again, all you have to do is double click on the .u project asset right there. And that will open up your project from where you last saved it. To begin, let's briefly go over how to navigate the user interface and what all these different windows do. So probably the window that sticks out the most is the viewport right here. The viewport is essentially just a view into our 3D world that we're creating. So for example, we can fly around and look at our world. We can even grab objects and manipulate them, all within the 3D viewport. Now, don't worry, we are going to go over camera controls and how to move objects in just a bit, but I first want to go over what the different windows do. Right above the viewport is the toolbar. The toolbar is pretty important because it's where we get a lot of our tools and a lot of different buttons we're going to be continually pressing. For example, what if I want to add an object into our world? Then I can click on the plus icon and scroll down to shapes, and maybe I add in a sphere and place it in the world to move it around. I can also switch modes. So right now I'm in select mode, which is the main mode where we can move objects around. Let's say if I'm making a landscape, I can go into landscaping mode and create a landscape, or I can go into foliage mode and start to paint foliage if I do have those assets. If you are curious, we are going to go over both modes later in the video. Now to the right of that, we have the outliner. The outliner is essentially a list of all the objects that make up my current world. So for example, if I want to select a chair, but the chair isn't in my view right now within the outliner, I can select a chair right there like that. I can also select multiple objects by holding down Control. So maybe I want to select both chairs, just hold down Control like that, and maybe also the statue right there. The outliner is also a great place to organize your world. For example, we see we have all these folders. Real quickly, if you want to create a folder, all you have to do is right click, create folder. Let's call this one my folder, and hold down Control, let's select both chairs and simply drag them into there just like this. We can also hide and unhide objects. For example, maybe I want to edit something that's behind the table, but the table's in the way right now. I can come here and temporarily click on the eye icon to hide the table, and then click on the eye icon again to unhide it. And right below the world outliner, we have the details panel. The details panel is essentially where we can edit all the properties of an object that we have selected. For example, maybe if I don't like the scale of this chair right here, I can select the chair and come to scale and maybe increase it by 2 in the Z-axis, which is the vertical axis, and see that we have a really long and tall chair. Now, I don't like that edit, it looks kind of weird, so you can always press Ctrl and Z in Unreal Engine to undo anything. Now, we do have one more default window. That's arguably the most important window since it stores everything we're doing. It stores information on the chairs, the table, even the entire world, and that is the content drawer. You can get the content drawer by going all the way down here to the bottom left hand corner and clicking on content drawer like that to bring it up. Alternatively, since this window is pretty important, you can press Control and space at the same time to bring it up and close it. So if you press Control and space, it's going to bring up the content drawer, and this gives us a folder view of all the assets that make up our project. So for example, if we want to see where this chair is being stored and maybe we want to edit the chair, then we can come under starter content, props, and right there we have SM_chair. If I double click on it, we can see the chair asset and make any adjustments if we do need to. Now we're going to go over the static mesh editor later, so I can exit out of this window by clicking on the X icon. I'm going to press Control and space again to bring back my content drawer, and probably the best example I have for the content drawer is that it's like your computer's file explorer. So just like on your computer where you have folders, and in those folders you have subfolders, and those subfolders contain assets like text files or Word documents, same exact thing with the content drawer in Unreal. So you have folders, and in those folders you have subfolders, and finally you have all those assets that make up your project. So for example, here we have the starter content folder, and I can go into it by double clicking like this, or I can click on it right here within the folder window. Now I could go into any of these different folders. For example, the maps folder contains the map we're currently editing. So we can see up here that this map is called minimal_default. Right there's minimal_default. We can double check that we are editing this map by double clicking on it to open it up. Let's go save. And we can see that it did open up the exact same map. Now, if I ever want to go up a folder, I can always click on here. So right now we're in the maps folder. If I want to get out of that, I can click on starter content. And if I want to get out of that, we can even go to content right there. Now, don't worry, if you don't have starter content, you can click on the apps folder. If I want to get out of that, I can click on starter content. And if I want to get out of that, we can even go to content right there. Now, don't worry, if you don't have starter content, you can click on add, and then add feature or content pack, and then go to content and simply select starter content and add a project. I'm not going to do that since we did add it when we were creating our project. As you can guess, the content drawer is a pretty big deal. And maybe you don't want to press Control and space all the time to bring it up. You always want it docked in your layout. Well, all you have to do is click on docked in layout like this. And now your content drawer will be right here at the bottom. And notice how it's called content browser right now, not called content drawer. So whenever I say content browser and content drawer, just know that I'm talking about the same exact thing. Now, this is great, but this tab right here is taking up a little bit of real estate. If you ever want to get rid of a tab, all you have to do is right click and click on hide tabs. If you want to get back that tab, then you can click on the very small blue triangle and that will bring back your tab. Also, tabs are great because if you left mouse button and hold, you're able to move this around and dock it somewhere else. So maybe if I don't want content browser at the bottom right here, I can dock it to the side, or I can even dock it to one of the tabs right here, and now I'm able to switch in between details and the content browser. Also, if you ever want to move windows around, you can hover in between the windows, and then you're able to move it down just like this to adjust exactly how you want your user interface. Now, another neat trick is that if I dock my content browser right here, and let's go make it a little bit smaller, and maybe I don't want it always visible, I can right click and go dock to sidebar. Now, whenever I want my content browser or any other window, I can just click right here and it will show. Now, if I don't want to dock to sidebar, I can right click and unlock from sidebar just like that. Now I'm going to click on the X icon to get rid of that content browser. Alternatively, if I want to automatically dock all my windows in a sidebar except the viewport, I can click on F10 and click on F3 that are available to us. Our tab opened. We'll just reset all of our around our 3D world so we can view it at all. Down, you're able to look around your scene. And still, with the right mouse button held down, you're able to use the WASD keys to move around. If you now move your mouse, so we can view it at all different angles. To navigate is actually easier than you think. So you want your cursor inside the viewport, and then you want to hold down the right mouse button. If you now move your mouse with the right mouse button held down, you're able to look around your scene. And still, with the right mouse button held down, you're able to use the WASD keys to move around. You can also use E and Q to go up and down. So that's E to go up, Q to go down, W to move forward, S to move backwards, and A and D to move left and right, all the while holding down the right mouse button. If you are not holding down the right mouse button and you try to use WASD, then nothing will happen. So make sure you do hold that down. Now we can also control our camera speed. So let's say, for example, there's an object that's really far away and you want to go towards that object, but your camera is moving too slow. Well, if you come up here to the top right hand corner and select the camera icon, you're now able to control that speed. So right now we're at 4, we can also bring this up to 6, and now we are a lot faster. And we can bring this all the way down to 1, and we can see that we are. Now that we know how to navigate around our world, it's time to go over how to create new objects and move them around. So we're going to go over moving, scaling, and rotating objects. To begin, let's go over simple movement. I'm going to press a G key to get rid of our editor widgets, and now all we see is our world. So to move an object, simply select it, and by default we get the translation or the movement gizmo. To move an object, hover over any of these areas.
Maar ik wil eigenlijk die andere map. Ja! Oh shit. Ik weet niet of mijn graphics ding daar blij mee is, maar. Oké, waar waren we?
Arrows. And hold down the left mouse button. So I'm able.
Oké, left mouse button. Even deze dingen klikken. Dan klik ik omhoog. Dus naar links. Kijk.
Able to move this chair around, but notice how moving the chair isn't smooth. That's because by default, snapping is turned on. Now you could turn off snapping by coming up here and unchecking the grid icon like that. So now we can smoothly move our objects around. Now I'm going to turn it back on because it's important to know that Unreal uses centimeters. So right now, since there's a 10 right next to the icon, it's snapping every 10 centimeters. We can change this by selecting the number, and in the drop down, let's select 100. So now it's moving every 100 centimeters, which is 1 meter. So every time this chair moves, it moves 1 meter. So that's pretty important to know. Now I'm going to uncheck it because I do want smooth movement. Next up is rotation. So to rotate your object, you want to change its gizmo. To change a gizmo, you want to select one of the buttons up here. So right now it's on translation. Right next to it is rotation.
Rotation, rotation, rotation. Then it's on the side, and this is like the yeah. Okay.
Now I can rotate this chair in all these different axes. We can see that rotation snapping is turned on. If I want to turn that off, then right next to translation snapping, we have this icon right here. Make sure it's not blue. And now we're no longer snapping every 10 degrees. I can press Ctrl Z to undo all those changes. And let's go over scaling. So right next to rotation, we have scaling, and scaling works pretty similar to the rest of the gizmos. All you have to do is hover over any of these squares, hold down the left mouse button.
Oh, now you can make it bigger. Like this, oh shit. Can make it lower. Okay. And this you can make it wider. Rat.
And now we're gonna scale in that exact direction. So if we want to turn off scale snapping, of course, just uncheck the icon right there, and now we can smoothly scale. I'll press Ctrl Z a bit because it's important to point out that if I hover my mouse not over one of the individual squares, but the one square that's connecting all of them, so the one in the middle, hold down the left mouse button, I can move my chair and scale it uniformly up and down. So not in any particular axis.
Okay.
So I press Ctrl Z to undo all those. And if we hover over all these buttons, we see that there's shortcuts. So movement is W, rotation is E, and scaling is R. So that means it's W to move, E to rotate, and R to scale. So those are some of the most common shortcuts that we're going to be using consistently throughout our time in Unreal Engine. So again, one last time, it is W to move, E to rotate, and R to scale. I also want to point out that if we want to move our object in the direction of our object, then come up to this little globe icon, select it. That's how it's now a square. And we can see that we're now able to move the object in that object's direction. So move it locally instead of globally. If we want to switch it back to global, then click the square icon again to make it a globe. And now we're moving it in the direction of the world and not that individual object. It's also important to point out that if I press W to get our translation widget, and if I hover over the square that's in between the different axes, I'm able to lock it and move it only in those two axes. So if I hover in between the Y and X axis, I'm just moving it in between those and not in the Z axis. I can also lock it in between the Z and Y axis, just like this. So let's press Ctrl and Z to undo those changes. Now you're probably wondering, how do we create an object in our world? Well, there's a couple of ways. Number one is that we can duplicate an object. So with any object selected, for example, this statue, if I press Ctrl and D, then we just duplicate that object. Now, we didn't notice a change. That's because it duplicated it in the same spot as the original object. So if I hold down the left mouse button and move it out of the way, we can see that we did duplicate that object. And within the outliner, there's now a new object called Statue 2, which is a copy of the original statue. So let's delete Statue 2. And there is an easier way to duplicate. This is the way I duplicate. And that is hovering over an arrow with a translation widget selected and holding down Alt and left mouse button. So hold down both of those and simply drag. And now we're able to easily duplicate and drag an object away. So let's press Ctrl Z to undo all those changes. Now, another way to create an object is by using the Add tool up here in the toolbar. So for example, let's click on Add and let's come all the way down here to Shapes, and maybe we want to drag in a sphere. simply drag it in like this, or we can even add in a light, like a point light, and we're able to drag it around in our scene. So let's go delete those. And finally, the last way to add an object is through the content browser. So let's bring up the browser by holding down Control and space at the same time, pressing both of those. And let's go into props. And to add an object into the content browser, hold down the left mouse button and drag it into your world. For example, this couch. So let's go move.
Take a look. So add maps. See here. Wait, how did he do
Move it up into props.
Okay. Content, props, then so get the lamp. And like this. Yeah, we probably want to move. Then we want to not like that. Like this. Perfect.
And to add an object into the content browser, hold down the left mouse button and drag it into your world. For example, this couch. So let's go move it down just like this. And now we have a brand new object. So by holding down Shift, you can select multiple objects. So for example, if I have my chair on the left selected, and I want to select the chair on the right, if I hold down Shift, now I have them both selected. If I hold down Shift again, I can add in the table and the statue. Now, if I want to deselect an item, all I have to do is hold down Control and click on any items to deselect them. Now, all we have is the statue and the left chair selected. And here's another tip. If I have the chair selected, hold down Alt and the left mouse button to drag out a new chair. Let's say if I want to drag this chair all the way over there, then I'm going to have to do
this.
Now that you've finished your first level, it's time to move on to the post-process volume. So we're going to go over how we can change the settings of our viewport camera, specifically exposure. While in the process of creating our first level, you might have noticed that if we zoom into the shadows, we see our screen gets brighter and brighter and brighter. And then when we zoom out, our screen gets darker. So that is auto exposure. And what exposure is trying to do is that it's trying to mimic the way our eyes work. So for example, if you've ever been in a very dark room and you decide to jump out into the daylight, you can feel your eyes start to hurt and everything is really bright, but slowly over time your eyes start to adjust until everything comes into focus. And that is exactly what Unreal Engine is trying to mimic by brightening our screen and darkening our screen. So I think we can create a better example by duplicating this map and creating a little house. So to do so, let's press Control and space to go into our content drawer. And I want to duplicate minimal_default, which is right now located in starter content and maps. So right here is the current level that we have. There's a little asterisk right next to it, and that tells us that it needs to be saved. So press Control S.
Okay. Maps. Now it's saved. Oh, this was the one. Ah. Okay, duplicate house. And now I wanna Ctrl S. En nu wil ik house openen. This house. Perfect.
To save the level, and to duplicate the level, simply press Ctrl and D to duplicate. Now let's go rename this to post process example, and let's go save it. So if I double click on minimal_default, this is the current map that we've been on. And then if I double click on post process example, this is the new map that we're about to edit. Now notice that our grid is pretty large right now. That's because we have our snapping set to 100.
Yo, wat is er? Richo? Ik hoor je niet.
Hallo, Joey?
Yo, ik hoor je nu.
Hoor je me?
Ik hoor je.
Hey, kom je op Discord of?
Ja, is goed.
Ai, kom op Discord, hè? Joey, mate.
Ai.
Ai. Hey,
We can make the
Zo.
mute, Joey?
Ja.
Er is blijkbaar een update van Fortnite geweest.
Ja, en de server is nog steeds offline. Nee, ik weet het.
Ja, hoezo? Waarom?
Oh,
Wat is er
geen
voor een
idee.
update, bro?
Ik had nog opgezocht, 20 over 12 of 30 over 12. Half 1 zou het gefixt moeten zijn, maar nee hoor.
Ja, ik zit er gewoon op Twitter nu te kijken. Wacht, ik ga eens nog eens...
grid
Ja, ik had ook al
squares
gekeken.
smaller by saying this back to 10 as its default. So now our grid is a little
Nu
bit
ben ik
smaller
legit Unreal
Or you
Editor
can
aan het
press G.
leren.
to hide all those editor
Wat ben je aan het
widgets.
leren?
Now
Om
I want to
Unreal
start
Editor te
deleting
gebruiken.
all these objects. So simply select an object and
Waar is
delete it to get rid of it.
Wat jij
And
gisteren
here is
in
a
de
little
update
tip.
was.
If I go into the outliner,
Unreal
since I
Engine.
do want to delete all these
Ja,
chairs,
dat-
I could hold down Control
Wat is dat nou?
and select each chair individually, or I can select
het
the
proberen
first
te leren.
chair at the very
Dat.
top of the list, hold down Shift,
Wat kun je er
and
nog
select the
mee?
last
Kun je nog eens uitleggen?
Je kan ermee games maken.
Oh, ga je een game maken? Ik hoor je, man.
Weet niet. Ik probeer maar wat. Ik probeer te
One.
leren om te
and then it'll
gebruiken.
select everything in
Het is een
between.
beetje ingewikkeld.
So
Moet ik het ook
Control
installeren? Dat kan mij helpen.
Ja, doe maar. Maar je snapt het zelf ook
Is
niet.
to
Dus dat
select-
Nee,
scheelt.
klopt.
Dan snappen we
wil
het
het ook
allebei
leren,
niet.
toch?
Hey, ja, nee. Dat toch?
Ik kan ook gewoon je video's kijken.
Ja. Nee, klopt. Ja. Nou, dan zou
world,
ik,
you have a
volgens mij is het echt zo geïnstalleerd.
constant exposure, and then when you're in
It's been
game,
5 hours without Fortnite. Die man kan geen vijven zonder Fortnite, zo te zien?
Ja, het is
Oké.
crazy.
Ja.
Maar je kan ook hier racing games in maken. En zo.
Wow, dat is wel insane.
Zeg maar, het is niet alleen
Oké,
Fortnite maps of zo.
Fortnite,
Het
we
is
need to
gewoon...
talk.
you have auto exposure turned on.
Zie ik er ook wel, man.
Now it's time to go over
Rain for
materials,
lock soon.
but do keep in
What?
mind that materials can be a little bit complicated, especially if you're brand new to 3D art. 90 degrees, and we can rotate it 90 degrees exactly by making sure snapping is enabled up here. Now I also want to control the exposure, since if we zoom in on the shadows and zoom out, we can see that auto exposure is enabled right now. So let's create
Fortnite
a
spelen? Ja, nee. This Fortnite downtime is driving me mad.
post-process volume. If I go into
It's been
volumes,
1 minute without
Post-
Fortnite. I cannot walk without trembling. I feel like I'm going through withdrawals. I can't go much longer without Fortnite. I can barely breathe. I don't know how much longer I can last here without Fortnite.
is 4 walls and
crazy.
2 objects and a light source.
Het is ook
I've
gewoon
also
een
gone ahead and
PvP
added
mod,
in.
idiots zijn.
Finally, let's talk about Unreal Engine 5's brand new lighting system called Lumen. And Lumen is revolutionary because it gives us
Imagine
real-time
being a
global
12-year-old saying
illumination
this and
and
playing
essentially
Fortnite.
global illumination.
Imagine being a 12-year-old saying this and playing Fortnite.
It's crazy.
Illumination is just a very fancy term for light bounce. Because in real life, light doesn't just hit an object and stop. Instead, it hits an object, bounces off that object, and after each bounce, it illuminates the world.
Oh, iemand
It
zegt
also
server
takes
up.
a little
Oh,
bit of
dat
that
is
object's color and projects it onto the next object.
Dat zou door die
For
mensen, dan
example,
is
it
het
might
niet
be a
zo,
little bit
weet je
hard to
wel.
see because the video
Softy bots.
Ik ga kijken, maar nee. Oh, het is trouwens wel een Real Engine, ja.
Ja.
Je hebt ook nog een Real Editor voor Fortnite, maar dat is specifiek voor Fortnite dan.
Oh, ik kan launchen. Oh, nevermind. Nu opeens niet meer. Oh, jawel. Wat?
Now it's time to start programming in UE5. And in case you forgot, Unreal Engine is a video game engine. So, of course, programming is going to be a pretty big part of it. But Unreal Engine handles programming a little bit differently compared to other video game engines. Instead of having lines of code we write to tell the engine what to do, we instead have blocks of nodes. And we connect these nodes to each other to create logic. These nodes in Unreal Engine are called blueprints, and blueprints is Unreal's visual scripting language. Now, in my opinion, blueprints are a lot easier and a lot faster than traditional ways of coding like an Unreal Engine, where we would have to type everything out using C++. Even if you don't plan on programming anything, I still highly recommend that you learn blueprints, because blueprints is literally everywhere inside the engine. It's what we use to connect the different parts of the engine to each other. So it's an essential skill to know if you do want to learn Unreal Engine. And with all that being said, let's learn blueprints by creating our first video game in UE5. To begin, before we do anything, let's duplicate the current level we have open and create our game within our new duplicated level. So if we come up to the top left hand corner, we can see the name of our level, which is called Landscape Example. If you remember, we created it within My Stuff and Maps. So since Landscape Example and Landscape Example up there have the same...
Ik geef jullie 1000 V-bucks.
Wie zegt dat?
Ja, iedereen doet dat. Dat doen ze zo'n giveaways, weet je wel. Eerst 2000 likes halen.
En dan nog meer en dan nog meer.
Ja.
Dat is de shit, man. Dat is wat je doet.
Hier, ik ben weer een andere live aan het joinen. Het gaat alleen maar puur om giveaways.
Ja.
En donaties.
Exact name, that means that this level is a level we currently have opened. So I'm going to select that level and press Control.
Waarom zit Nick in Fortnite?
Waarschijnlijk krijg je een oude stream uit, ja.
Ja, nee, is gewoon live.
Ja, maar dan is het waarschijnlijk een oude stream. Je weet toch dat streamers gewoon 24/7 hun streams gewoon replayen.
Mr. Lust doet dat, wist je?
Dat doen heel veel, dus dat.
Control and D at the same time to duplicate. Now it's going to ask for a new name. I'm going to call this one Game Map. Now we can rename any assets within the content drawer by right-clicking and going to rename. Also, the shortcut is FN2. But I like the current name, so I'm not going to do that. Now I'm going to double-click and save selected to open up our new level. And here we have the map we will be editing to create our very first game. To the viewport, and now I get full control over the engine. Click the play button up here in the toolbar. And here we have the map we will be editing to create our very first game. So to play a game in Unreal Engine, click the play button up here in the toolbar. So pressing it, we'll start playing our game, but we can't control our game right now since I need to click into the viewport, and now I get full control over the game. So I can press the escape key to stop playing my game. So to play a game, click the play icon, and to control the game, click into the viewport. We don't have our mouse anymore, and that's because to stop playing, you need to click on the escape key. So you probably noticed that our controls for our game were pretty basic, since it's just the WASD keys, just like the viewport controls. And that's because we don't have any characters or gameplay elements set up yet. Up to Windows, and select world settings, and now we're going to get a brand new window right here, which we can switch in between details and world settings. So right here we have game mode.
Okay, window, outliner. World settings.
Override. This is where we set exactly what game we want to play. And at the drop down, we should have BP underscore third person game mode. Now, if you don't have BP underscore third person game mode, that's because you didn't add the third person content yet, which is the content that includes this character right here. So if you want to get our character and our game mode, press Control Space, go to add and add feature or content pack, and select third person and then click on add to project. Now I've already done that, which is why I get BP underscore third person game mode, which is located under one of the files that were created when I added in the third person content under, which is why I get BP place, go to add and add feature or content pack and select third person, then click on add to project. Now I've already done that.
Look, my BE heeft de uitstaan.
Oké dan.
Ik kan slapen, man. Ik ga straks niet waarom ik niet kan.
Dan BP2. Oh! Ik kan lopen in mijn game.
Wat?
Let's go!
Wat kon je lopen in de game?
Ja,
In welke game?
in mijn game.
Screenshare, ik wil wel even kijken wat je doet.
Ik ben live. Alleen ik ben van mijn platform afgevallen. Shit.
Moet ik nu echt naar je live kijken, bro?
Ja.
Shoot. Ik wil VIP kijken, man.
Eh.
Je moet ook live gaan en zeggen van Fortnite servers, Fortnite servers, Fortnite servers. Dat is hoe je het doet, bro. Want niet veel mensen zijn nu op dit moment live.
Wel.
Oh, ik ga dus eens gaan opzoeken. Kanaal bekijken. Now.
Oh, het zou moeten zijn dat je gelijk een melding krijgt.
Trying to learn how to make in the game with Unreal Engine.
Which is why I get BP underscore third person game mode,
Dat
which
zeg
is
ik toch.
located under one of the files that were created when I added in the third person content
Maar
under
gekke.
third person and blueprints. So it's this one right here. Alternative on character to get out.
Maar ik heb
Key to start
online heb ik een
work.
auto
I no longer
gedownload.
get access to the
Maar ik heb nu een heel klein platform alleen. Ik wil weten hoe ik meer shit maak.
Ik kan dat, bro.
Ctrl O. Nee, Ctrl Space. Dat was het. Ctrl O. Not third person. Zag ik niet. Characters.
Oh.
Many.
What do you mean Fortnite servers are down? Should I stream Marvel Rivals or Rocket League till Fortnite servers are up? Hallo Fortnite servers, how long for a new...
Is het grappig?
We are all feeling it with our game to play. Oh, mensen dood dat gaan gewoon, hè? Fortnite servers down. Monster Hunter it is then. Is anyone else feeling the pain of these silent Fortnite servers? Hours of waiting, and the vibrant battles have turned into a haunting void. Bring back the chaos, we're ready to jump back into a fight. Met een gebroken hartje. Oh, Joey. Everyone is dying. When will the Fortnite servers be back? Fortnite servers down, me and Jake both crying.
Zo, gaat het goed?
Ik vind het grappig. Zo.
Ah. Wat is dat? Oh, dat is de lucht.
Ik was in de wijk, net een kind van 5. When will the
Ja.
Fortnite servers be back? Dat kan ik niet lezen, dat vind ik wel jammer.
Oh. Hiermee. Deze kan ik kapot groot maken. Met skill. Ja. En dan... Hier hebben we een grote platform. The video memory is going crazy. Wat is dat dan? Eigenlijk... Hoe zou ik dat doen dan? Nee, niet dit. Content drawer. Add. Kijk hier dan. On vehicle. Kan ik het hier neerzetten?
Je bent goed bezig, Joey.
Dankjewel, Liesje.
Geen probleem.
Off-road game mode. Sportscar. Deze moet ik hier ook neerzetten dan.
Ja.
Zie hem alleen niet.
Servers.
Wacht, dan moet ik nu... Oh. Ik moet eerst opnieuw opstarten. Oké. Zo, Wuxie met de Commodore. Dankjewel, jongen.
Zal ik even... Hey, je hebt wel 2 likes.
Good luck.
Wacht, je gaat me niet vertellen dat je je eigen stream liked, toch?
Tuurlijk lijkt me echt sim.
Ik zal hem ook even liken voor je. Ik heb nu 3 likes, bro.
Zo, ik heb er nu 4, ja.
Nee, 3.
Dan telt mijn eigen like niet bij jou, denk ik.
Alleen, je hebt redelijk wat abonnees, dus waarom de fuck kijkt er niemand naar je live?
Omdat
Ja, misschien...
mijn abonnees niet van livestream kijken zijn. Dat is gewoon van alles.
Dat is gewoon omdat je te veel verschillende dingen doet op je kanaal.
Het is niet wat ik stream, hè.
Ja, het is gewoon... van alle andere dingen.
Ja.
Je doet gewoon een beetje te veel door elkaar. Je hebt zo'n compilatie, je hebt voetbal. Wat dat je nog allemaal. En dan die vecht zit ook nog. Alleen dat bracht echt helemaal niks op. Het meeste was die compilatie.
Nee, die vechters. Wacht ook.
4 weergaven, 7 weergaven, 1 weergave. Dat is waarschijnlijk gewoon omdat je hem zelf een keer bekeken hebt. 6
Ik weet
weergaven.
niet. Ik bedoel video's.
Ja, de video's.
Ja, die video's waren compilaties.
Ja, maar de vechtvideo's gingen niet zo lekker.
Nu wel. Alleen de shorts.
Nee, ik ben bezig over video's, YouTube-video's.
Oh,
shorts.
nee. Die...
Ja,
Maar dat was ook geen... Dat waren geen per se... Ja, de enigste video's die goed waren was dat ik echt... legit een oude feit gewoon...
Hier,
erop zetten.
geen weergaves op eentje. Niemand heeft die video gewoon gezien.
Welke?
Wat?
Welke, zeg ik?
Tyson Fury wins his fight against Deontay Wilder.
Dat kan wel, ik weet niet zeker wat het is.
Ja, dat is een jaar geleden, man.